I think we are all advised to keep on nodding terms with people we used to be, wrote Joan Didion in her essay on keeping a notebook. Whether we find them attractive company or not, otherwise, they turn up unannounced and surprise us. Come hammering on the mind's door at 4 a.m. of a bad night and demands to know who deserted them, who betrayed them, and who is going to make amends. We forget all too soon the things we thought we could never forget. Husbands. There was not one but two before M. Another improbable yet incontrovertible fact. I married twice, at 19, at 28. Each marriage lasted less than a year, but there they are. If you type my name into search engine, you will eventually find the wedding announcements. The first took place at the country club in Westchester. The second at the rented mansion on the Upper East Side. I walked down the aisle into two big white gowns. I said the vows, wore the ring, sipped the wine. I wanted to be married. Being married was the point deep down, in the place no less real for being concealed. I carried the knowledge that I could always get out of it. When M and I were first together, I was afraid to break this news to him. He knew about my second marriage, but the first marriage, the two marriages, was hard to explain away. Twice divorced. M has not exactly been sitting around waiting for me. There was the French suburban student, the Polish translator, the long suffering semi-girlfriend who took care of his cat when he was off on assignment, the gorgeous Somali woman who had modeled topless for Peter Beard. He'd lived with a painter for 7 tumultuous years. Way longer than I'd been with both of my husbands combined. But there were no wives. He hadn't married. Something had stopped him. Or else, why would have why would he have married the painter? It seems the sacred vows, the solemn commitment, for better, for worse, for richer, for fuller, for sickness and health, until death do us part, do us part, held left more momentous to him that they had to me. Now, ashamed of my own complicated past, I waited until we were away from a weekend. I mustered up my courage to tell him during a long time. I've been married before. He looked at me, puzzled. I mean, twice before. We stopped walking. We were miles from our cottage. He took a long while to respond. I never thought that I'd get married, he said. But I guess I thought that if I did, it would be just as special for both of us. I didn't know how to express that was different. Special was nothing to do with the slip dress by the Belgian designer that I will wear that June, nor the flower bedeck kupa drop with my father's talus. Special was not the prelude to batch cellosuit number 1, nor the loin of lamb in the private dining room of an old school French restaurant. It was not a delicate fake diamond band of leaves and flower, nor the provincial honeymoon. Special was that I had no exit strategy. Special was that I understood I wasn't for life. Come with me, for better or for worse. After we say goodbye to my first ex-husband, Em and I walked down the empty corridor of the Mark Twain Museum into that daylight. We drive to the market to pick up groceries and dinner. We've on familiar route, doing familiar things, but the landscape feels alien. The past, my past, has become present. He held home without saying much. I know M would respond with a shrug if I tried to get him to talk about it. But what's there to talk about? I want to tell him I'm sorry, but that will be ridiculous. M has always been jealous of my exes. Would you want me to stop being jealous? So instead, I tell him I love him, to which he responds, I know. I take a selfie in the dark of a cab as well, either at a red light on the corner of 56th and 6th. I raise my arm, angle my phone from above so that the selfie will be flattering. I do this perhaps of a dozen times until I come up with an image I can live with, one in which I don't look too old, too serious, or like I'm trying too hard. I've learned that I look best from the left. Glasses are good too. And there are Instagram filters. Perpetua, Willow, Ludwig. I can soften the image or sharpen it, remove shadows, create warmth. When I've achieved an effect as Photoshop as Woman magazine's cover, I post the selfie on my Instagram feed. See the day, lunch with an editor, then friends book party. It joins the others, a bar at sunset. My favorite lake, Jacob hitting forehead, the big fluffy white dog lying on the bathroom mat, an empty lecture hall in hour before I give a reading, the view from balcony on the Amalfi Coast where I teach each spring M, and me in the dark restaurant in Barcelona. You've been traveling a lot, friends will say, or, well, you've had a great summer. How was Europe? Seems like you've been everywhere. On Twitter, the library hub posts a black and white photo of William Faulkner, shown bare chest, a pipe in his mouth. He's wearing fashionable sunglasses and is sprawled outdoor on a deck, reading a paperback. His typewriter in front of him on a low table. The accompanying tweet: on this day in 1932, Faulkner moved to Hollywood to become a screenwriter. His life looked super chill, but it wasn't. What doesn't go on Instagram? Our bank statements pass through notices. Quick glances exchanged when our son isn't looking. Hangovers, sleepless nights, tuition bills, emails, bearing disappointing news, life insurance forms, last wills, and testaments. Great heavy insights. The way something we put our arms around each other early in the morning, blurry eyed, and the coffee brewing, and bury our heads in each other's shoulders. It's going to be okay, right? The arm tightened. It's going to be okay. A shared vocabulary like soundtrack to our lives, so familiar that we hardly even notice which of us is speaking. 18 years. Not many years ago, those words I have just used, Instagram, selfie, tweet, feed, would have no sense at all. Just the other day, Em said, the boys tried to FaceTime me while I am with Trevor. This abbreviated language is the norm. Tweet, Snapchat, Vine, adjective have become verb. I favorited it. Verb have become nouns. How many how many likes do you have? Time is moving at such an accelerated rate that completing sentence now seems baroque. My agent's assistant called to arrive a lunch date. She cycling back to set. M leaving world for a producer who is out of the office and will therefore have to return. My father-in-law remembers house drums, cigarettes on the street of Boston. My mother once spoke of the sky changing color above her New Jersey farm as the Hindenburg exploded into flames. I have students who have never mailed a letter and will never own a watch. When working overseas, M used to carry a typewriter in a backpack and filled his story by handing page to a hotel telex operator. At the moment of his writing, I am typing into a laptop keyboard the way I have since I first learned to type the summer of 7th grade on an IBM Selectric. Apparently, using two space after a period has become anachronistic. But tell that tell that to my right thumb. Winter. I am alone in a wooden cottage in the swamplands of Eastern Florida. A brief walk from an art center where I'm spending 3 weeks as a master artist in residence. When the station arrived, I imagined a cottage on a sandy beach, a porch with a hammock, and me in that hammock, swaying slowly in the ocean breeze. A tall glass of iced tea and by my side. Perhaps I will read the first 2 volumes Kunsgar. Perhaps I would reread in research of lost time. I will get A lot of work's done. I would find the thread again. The walks from my cottage to the art center where I meet my student each afternoon is along a narrow wooden boardwalk. We are decidedly not on the ocean. The tropical jungle on either side of the boardwalk crustles with wildlife. Later, at the end of my residence, the man who drives me in the airport will tell me about the 18 varieties of snakes he's seen on the property, only two of which are poisonous. But we've managed not to think about snakes and infestations of carpenter's bees at my cottage has my attention. The size of small fleas, they swarm each time I open my door. Bees set off in me a seismic reaction, primal, ancient, unreasonable. I am certainly that if strung, my throat will close up and I will die. After determining that the insect was not a bee and they will live, we detoured to Aix-en province from lunch M's idea. Several years into our marriage, we were at family picnic with friends in Prospect Park. Juice boxes threw across a blanket. String cheese softened in the sun. Glass container of baby carrots, bags of healthy chips, toddler of their palm, sticky hands. The grown-up sip wine. I notice a bee hovering near the rim of my glass. I jump up, arms feeling, wine spilling, and am calmly said, as he had many times, that you aren't allergic to bees. I become incensed. I couldn't let it go. He was playing with my life, being irresponsible. I thought in a white hot flash, how do you know? I snapped at him, furious in front of our friend, in front of her children. Em asked me if I remember that day in province. Of course I did. What was his point? I lied. It was a bee that stung you, Em said. He found in the dark of our rental car and quickly disposed of it before I could see. He took manner into his own hand. He knew I would panic if he held me. Didn't you wonder why we spent an hour circling the hospital? I'll take care of it. Em said, I'll take care of it. But now, alone without Em, in Florida, miserable, it doesn't matter what I think, what I know to be true. I cannot bring myself to leave my cottage and walk through the swamp. Each morning, I sit in the kitchen table, picking away at my laptop, and hot Florida sun beats against the roof of my cottage and imagine them. The purse-sized bees burrowing into the wood. I'll take a break from the essay I'm writing and read up on their two very different mating system. Large eye males search for females by patrolling, hovering, and Persian. Other males release pheromones into the air while they fly, announcing their presence. Hey baby, going my way. In English, the term uh, the term mémoire come directly from the French for memory, mémoire. David Shields offers in reality hunger, and yet more deeply rooted in the world memoir is the ancient Greek memoros pala, an offshoot of his Abastic Persian memara itself, a derivative of Indo-European from which we think about, but much patient for the girl wishes wishes she'd get on it, which of course is precisely what she said.